Only thing unplugged is Forgotten Seasons.
Welcome to the show, Devin Harris. D. Harris, man, how's it going?
It's doing well, man. I'm doing well. How you guys
look
doing?
Like you're doing well. He looks nice and relaxed, Dylan. You know what I mean? D. Harris been somewhere living well, not stressed out right now.
Not playing some golf, you know.
You see? Yep.
Speaking of doing well and relaxing, we got Jelani checking in from Mexico right now, Cabo. So we got our first international podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your vacation with wifey to talk a little Devin Harris with us.
That's cool. Devin Harris, I enjoyed watching Devin Harris play. This is a treat for me, so this pays the bill. Wifey gonna have to deal with it. She got some champagne at the pool. She'll be all right.
So we like to start these shows off sometimes running through a couple stats, especially for somebody that played 15 years in the league, and which is pretty rare. You played just under 1,000 games. You're 6'3". Usually small guards we hear don't really last that long in the NBA. If you had to guess, how many players in NBA history that were 6'3" and shorter do you think played more games over their career than you? Out of the 4,500, 5,000 players ever in the NBA.
One of my favorite parts of the show, man. Let's see.
200?
24.
Only 24.
24.
6'3" or smaller. So out of small guard, so to speak, I guess 6'3" is kind of teetering on that brink between a small guard and a regular guard. But safe to say you've seen some shit throughout your career. Is that safe to say?
That is safe to say. I've seen a lot of things.
Yes.
What do you think your secret sauce to lasting so long in the league is? Was it discipline? Was it being a good guy? Was it being a good teammate? Was it all the above? Like, how did you last 15 years in the league as a guard?
I think it's about being a good teammate. Guys want you around. I think it's about the discipline, obviously taking care of your body, doing the things to make sure that you last. But I think the biggest thing is the ability to adjust, knowing where you are in your career and knowing how to get the most out of that. I see a lot of guys who go from being a starter, being the number one option, and then coming to that realization like, okay, I am now a bench player. So my game has to adjust, and what does that look like, and so on. So I've been on a team where I've been an all-star. I've been on a team where I've been a number one option. I've also been on a team where I've been the 10th guy and the 11th guy. Those roles don't look the same. So being able to adjust to that role and maximizing that, I think is the real key.
I would say as a player and somebody to watch this game, I know he's considered undersized with 6'4" being the threshold to a bigger guard, yada, yada, yada. You have to catch D. Harris. You want to be physical and, hey, he's a smaller guard, woo, but he was elusive. Like the scouting report was to go do things, to be physical with him, speeding up. But you got to catch a quick guy first before you want to just decide you want to be physical with him. And one thing I was always a fan of his, he was elusive. He reminded me of a running back. You know what I mean? He had a good change of space, just when it was about to get drama, you know what I mean? He knew how to elude places and get to different little spaces on the court. It makes it hard for a big to hedge, to do different things to D. Harris that they tell you on the scouting report. But it's like, yo, bro, I mean, he was gone by the time I got up there to hedge and long hedge. Bro had already moved. So that's one thing that I noticed, and as a player, just watching him and being a fan of his was speed, man, quickness, elusiveness. I don't know what it translated to. He's saying IQ and all the right things, but his physical attribute was like a speed, quickness, elusiveness thing that the game hadn't seen yet. That's from my point of view.
Kenny Jett always talks about what's your superpower, right? And every player that's what's the difference between you and another person. What do you do well? And obviously, yes, speed was one of my things, and I tried to use that without sometimes especially early in my career to a fault. I really didn't have that change of speed. I didn't really know what that could do for me. But once I got that in my back pocket,
it was over.
That's when you see, you really go to that next level and really keep guys off balance. And more so too, you talked about the physicality of it though, but like I like to hit people first, and that's something that I learned. So like if I hit you first, that takes your physicalness away from you. That way I'm determining how hard, I get hit and it kind of keeps you off balance. And that's something that I learned really from my brother early on. He used to beat the shit out of me. So I start to like contact as opposed to running away from it.
Shout out, big bro.
Yeah.
So we're going to go all throughout your career. Obviously, you had some really high points. You had some low points. We're actually going to start with a new segment and maybe a game. So if you could bear with us here, we're going to try and give back to charity in this segment. You were on the 2010 Nets, who won 12 games, which not very many. I think the 7th worst team in NBA history. So we're going to play a little bit of game. For every player that you can name on that team, Forgotten Seasons is going to donate $12 to whatever charity of your choice. So we'll start a timer of, call it 2 minutes. So whenever you're ready, you could take a second. Can you try and name as many people as you remember from that 12-70 Nets team?
He probably needs a great teammate. He probably knows, Dylan. Give him an extra 5 seconds for my ramble.
Go for it. And if you can name more than 12, we'll put $100 additional to whatever charity you like. The Devin Harris Foundation. We could donate to some charity in New Jersey, in Wisconsin, whatever you like. But we're going to try and give back using the 2010 Nets as a vessel today.
Okay. Brooke Lopez. Ejian Leon. Tony Batiste. Rayford Austin. Terrence Williams, Chris Douglas Roberts.
Yep.
We're gonna be broke.
Bobby Simmons? No.
Yep.
Yeah, Bobby's on the team? Okay.
Yep.
Trenton Hassel.
Trenton Hassel.
That's 9.
Keon Dooley.
Yep.
Damn it.
Courtney Lee.
Yep.
Hey, never mind, man. Keep it
going. That's 11.
It's 11.
You got 11 out of 17 right now.
Oh, 17. Josh Boone?
Yep. There's 12. One more and we hit the bonus.
I might be blanking out after that.
Kardashian.
Oh, Chris Humphries. We had Chris Humphries?
Yeah.
Chris Humphries was on the team?
He did. He was.
Okay.
Was that early Chris Humphries?
We were in the same draft, so he was probably 6 years in.
Okay, yeah.
6, 7 years in. Okay, Humphries. Sasha was not on that team. That was the next year's team. Sasha Vujacic? No, that wasn't. Okay, that was next year. Okay.
We'll put the Jeopardy music underneath this too.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do it. He close.
Marcus was Marcus. UConn? Nope, he was there. Okay, that was the year before.
The guard, who was that? Marcus Williams. He was about to.
Yeah, Marcus Williams. That was the year before.
Yeah.
I think I'm done. I can't.
All right. Well, that's 13.
Devin, come on, man. That's 13.
That's pretty-
For somebody, so for a player who you the man at this point too, you can forgot at least 6 of those names on that list. But I mean,
I can't. It was the worst year. It was honestly the worst year of
that's
my
what
career.
I mean. You could have easily forgot about everybody. The parking lady, the popcorn guy. Like, I'm surprised. Yeah, you know what I mean. Hat tip to you, sir. Hat tip to you. Yeah.
Who did I miss? I'm curious of who I missed.
Chris Quinn. You missed Sean Williams.
Yes,
That's who I was looking at. I couldn't think of his
Which
name.
Sean? Which Sean? Because we had 2. The big one
was,
from Boston College.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You missed Jarvis Hayes
Jarvis.
Yes.
and Eduardo Nahara.
Eddie. Shout out Eddie. That's my dog. Good peoples.
Yeah,
But you did pretty
yeah.
good. I mean,
Yeah.
hey, sometimes I think sometimes in life that we remember the traumatic experiences and the traumatic days a lot more than the run of the mill days. I think that's kind of how it works.
100%. And
You could,
the Jersey days, it was weird because when I got there, we had a lot of talent, right? We made a trade for Jason Kidd. We had Vince. We had RJ. We had some European guys. It was like, okay. And I felt like every year they just kept stripping talent away. So we traded RJ, and we brought in Bobby Simmons. I think in E. That was the year I made the All-Star team, and it was like, okay, like we were just missed the playoffs. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna add some pieces. No, we strip away. We lose Vince that next year.
which is crazy.
which is crazy. Send him to Orlando. We get Courtney Lee, but just we went from like a savvy veteran team to like really young in like 2 years, and it just we got off to a really rough start that year. I think we lost the first, I want to say 18 games. Yeah. And we just couldn't recover. And then we went through we had 4 or 5 coaches that year too.
Hey, to that note, D, how hard is it? How easy is it to keep losing games when you're in a tough situation? Me and Dylan was just talking about that. I was like, bro, it's kind of easy. You know what I mean? Once it permeates from top to bottom and the poison gets in there, you look up, man. You done dropped 6, 7, 8 in a row.
And it becomes more of a mental hurdle, right? So when in that first game, it's like you get closer, and then you get to that 4 or 5 minute, and you just have these breakdowns. You know what I mean? And it's just like it's just mental mistakes, and like you're right there. It's like, okay, we're gonna win this game. Then we make a mental mistake and we lose one. It's like, okay, all right, next game, like we're right there, and it's like we couldn't. It took us a while just to get that first one, and then once you get that first one, it's like, okay, we won a couple, but then like the season starts and you catching the Lakers and all these good teams in a row. Then you go on another losing streak, and then it's a while before you get to a team that you can beat. But then I think towards the end of the year, it's like, okay, we started knocking teams off. I mean, we beat the Spurs twice, and at that point, you just racing against history. We don't want to be the team that wins the least amount of games. So now you're up against
hell of emotional motivational tactic.
Thank God
for the Charlotte Bobcats. I mean, that's who you broke the winless against.
Yes. What about the new Pistons? Did they stay away from that record? This Pistons team.
So they have the record for the most consecutive losses in the season. I still think we own the most losses to start a season.
Well, anyway, that was a fun trip down memory lane.
Was it fun?
Huh?
Somebody, hey, listen. If
some charity's gonna be in a lot better spot thanks to Devin Harris and Forgotten Seasons. So yeah, it was fun. It's for the kids.
If the Nets couldn't win games, at least at this point, we can use that to help some kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Wisconsin hoops. I mean, legendary Wisconsin's. I mean, listen, Latrell Speedwell, Nick Van Exel, Terry Porter, Tyler Hero, Tyrese Halliburton, Jordan Poole, Karan Butler. I would even bring in a name that also went to Wisconsin from my high school year, Sam Oakey. I don't know if you ever heard. Sam Oakey was the man in Wisconsin was the man. He had one of the baddest girlfriends I've ever seen a guy have. He brought her to an All-American game. Okie was the man. I'm talking about for 2-3 years straight. Okie was the man. So that's my offering. You can talk on Wisconsin basketball. That's a pretty dope list.
Yes,
for starters, but I'd like to add Sam Oakey to that list. For our viewers, I know they know these names that I just mentioned, D. Harris, but for the viewers that may not know Sam Oakey, can you give them a little bit of background into who Sam Oakey was?
If I'm not mistaken, he was one of the first All-Americans that we got to come to Wisconsin.
Yes,
and back then, Wisconsin wasn't necessarily like a sexy place to come and play. We slowed it down. We ran an offense called movers and screeners, which basically means you got shooters and you got screeners, and it's a constant movement for 35 seconds until you can get the best shot. And Sam was the first athletic player from a big standpoint that really was kind of a bad boy, physical, and kind of an outlier to what normal guys that we recruited at that time. Fact. You know what I mean? And he didn't laugh.
He looked Oshkosh Bigosh, but he had a little edge to him. Okie had a little. He was strong. He had a little bounce. He could shoot. Put it on the floor. Yeah.
I met Tyrese Halliburton. For the first time this year. He was like, "Bro, I'm not here without you." You know what I mean? You open up the door for guys like us to be able to come through and do what we do, and it's to pay it forward. I think it's a really cool thing to do.
Have you ever wondered if Chet Holmgren might be a descendant of Abraham Lincoln, or if a UFC fighter could beat an alien in a fight? You might have not, and that's okay. But Shea Serrano and Jason Concepcion from Six Trophies Podcast have. If you love basketball, and more importantly, if you love fun, you gotta listen to Six Trophies, where Shea and Jason serve up the biggest moments from around the NBA with their brand of unbridled joy, banter, and pop culture side quests. Each week, they hand out 6 pop culture-themed trophies for 6 basketball-related activities. Stuff like the Denzel Washington and Training Day Trophy, given out to the player or team having the best week around the NBA. Or the Lauryn Hill You Might Win Some, But You Just Lost One trophy for the team or player that just can't get it together. Plus, a bunch more trophies for all the good, bad, or just plain head-scratching moments around the NBA. This playoff season, you'll want to make 6 Trophies your go-to companion podcast. Follow 6 Trophies on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Listen ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. 2004 draft, you go number 5 overall. I know that everybody says that getting drafted is a dream and that it doesn't matter where you go. But be honest with us, how happy or relieved were you when you got traded when you got drafted by the Wizards and then you got traded to the Mavericks?
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of a top 5 pick that instantly goes to a 55 win team. And with having that kind of success. I don't know. It doesn't happen that often. And I can tell you, the Mavs were one of my favorite teams to watch growing up. I was a huge Dirk fan. But to be able to go to that type of situation, now rookie year was tough. I'm not going to say I had to earn everything that I got, but walking into that type of situation coming out of college, I don't think there was a better thing for me, a better situation.
Who was your coach, Avery?
It was actually Don Nelson to start.
Yeah. So was Nelly burnt out? Was this burnt out Nelly, or what version of Nelly is this?
So as a rookie, you're wet behind the ears. You don't really. I'm not gonna call it politics, but you don't realize the situation that you're coming into.
Right.
Obviously drafted to replace a Steve Nash type situation, right? Steve leaves, goes to Phoenix. They draft me after that happens.
Yep.
And Steve is one of Nelly's favorite players, right? So he coming into it, he's already pissed that they didn't retain him, right? Secondly, he hates rookies, right? Can't stand them. So coming to it, it's like
it was a different league back then.
Yeah, right. So coming into it, he's him and Mark are at an impasse. You don't give me Steve back, and we're on the brink of like building something special. And then you give me this rookie point guard. Nelly's a thinker, right? Nelly likes to mess with people. So it's like, okay, you gonna give me this kid? Like, all right, I'm gonna start him out the gate, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, and this is going on. I'm just going out there. I'm just playing hard, doing things, and I played well in training camp. But like 2 days before, it was like, all right, Rook, you're up, starting opening night. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, let's get it. Okay, so first couple games, I played well. Opening night, we play against our rival, Sacramento. We win. I do a hell of a job guarding Mike Bibby that game. I think the first 10 games, it was like, okay, but then the mind games start to go in, right? And then it's like, I got a million people telling me what I should be doing, how I should be doing it. And at that point, I don't know how to shut those people off, right? And I'm still trying to find my niche of how to be impacted. In college, I shot a lot of threes. Like, they didn't want me to shoot threes. They wanted me driving, right? So it got to a point where I was thinking so much out there. It's like, he says that. And it's just like, it got to a point where they just had to take me out. And I sat for I want to say 15 games straight. I didn't even take off my sweats. Blowouts, nothing. I'm just over there just, you know what I mean? And
did you learn anything from that? Dev, did you learn anything from that? Nah,
it was like, because it's to the point where learn just like you have to be able to receive information, but also understand how to, use some of it, but turn some of it off, right? And it's when you got so many, and my, what I'm saying, as coming in as a rookie, I got veterans telling me stuff. Dirk saying he need the ball. I got Mike Finn saying he want the ball. I got Nelly telling me well, I want you to do this. And Avery's over there barking at me. And it's just all these things are going through my mind as I'm trying to also read the defense and try to leave. And it got to the point where I'm thinking too much as opposed to reacting. And I just needed to kind of a restart and kind of figure it out. So I just started watching. and just learning like how, what was going on, how Jet Cherry was doing it, how Stackhouse was doing it. And I kind of needed that time. But my first year was like a constant roller coaster. Not only on top of that, because Don Nelson and Avery at that point in time were head coaches. So Nelly would coach for 10 games and then take off. And then we had Avery for 10 games, and he would coach.
What you mean he take off, Dev? Where is he going?
Like we don't know.
I got an idea. He go to Hawaii. He absconded to Hawaii to his little ranch for a couple of days. Yeah,
planted some seeds.
Yeah,
but it was crazy because at that point in time, Nelly was done playing me, so I wouldn't play when he would coach.
Right.
But then when Avery would come and coach, I would play.
You getting ticked?
I'm getting ticked. So it was like this whole constant like this pull and tug like all year long of like
it's exhausting,
man. And it really coming into a situation where I was a second team All-American coming out of college. Like
come on now,
but trying to figure out how to belong. And then I got people like that first year from a mind standpoint, mentality standpoint, it messed me up. It really messed me up.
Was any vet like instrumental? You said you had a lot of people talking to you. Did anybody talk to you real? Did you go to anybody like, yo, what the hell do I do?
They felt bad for me, but it wasn't an answer to a problem. Like, continue to work on your game, continue to get better. Like that part, yeah, like any player is going to do so. But from a tug pull of, what I'm saying, coaches and
they don't really have no tangible information for you when you're going through it mentally, Dylan.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, hopefully you got somebody, your uncle, your dad. This is a man thing. When it happens mentally, like veterans can give you, you need to get in the gym, you need to get on your left hand, you need to work on this. But when it starts happening mentally, like you need the homie. You know what I mean? You need your mom, whoever that closest person is to you, that's the person that's going to fix the basketball. Hopefully, maybe you get somebody on the staff. Rarely you do. It might be the video guy or the lower guy that they don't really mess with like that.
So we had a team psychologist, sports psychologist, Don Coxstein. And I spent so much time with him that year.
Wow.
Mark Cuban.
And yeah, just trying to, and he understood like it was like there was no perfect scenario, and he knew like that my head was just all over the place at times, and we would go back at night and just work on things that had nothing to do with the game, but just trying to give me something to focus on. And he was instrumental just getting through that first year and coming through that second year just as a restart and having a better understanding of what to come into the situation.
Shout out, Doc. That's important, man.
Yeah.
For a young man to have a professional, that's even better than the homie or the uncle. This is a professional. And like I said, once you unlock the mind, the basketball part is the easy part. You know what I mean?
Right.
Once you start thinking too much and listening to everybody and like you want to please everybody and trying to find your way, that's when you start running into problems. Everybody's not as talented and headstrong to make themselves a whole nother personality. We got some players that we work with, KG, Paul, people who get nicknames. They could flip a switch. And it's not, You're not talking to Paul or so-and-so, you talking to the truth.
Speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up. So I learned that from my next coach, my second coach, Avery, the importance of swagger, right? And he kind of instilled that in me my second and third year. And it's like when you walk into this building, you are the point guard of the Dallas Mavs. That's how you walk into this building. Like, and
you wouldn't have thought you would have got swag from Avery Johnson, but that's all the swag that you needed. Yeah, the general. He was the general, man. Yeah, yeah.
And once that confidence was like inside, I was like, okay. It's like then you start to realize, like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I got this.
It's my time now.
It's my time now. Like I hear what you're saying, but like I see what's going on out there, and I'm gonna make this happen. I think that he was so important for me.
Is that the benefit of having a player coach, somebody that played, as opposed to somebody that had spent their lives X's and O's?
Nelly played too,
but he did. He did.
I honestly wish I had more time with Nelly in a better scenario. Like I think I could have. His system was tailor made for me. As I start to understand how to be effective. Now Avery was good too. It took us a while to get on the same page because like Avery went straight from playing to coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when that happens, it's like they still think like as their he still think he could like beat me and like you think you nice, huh? You think and I'm like no coach, I'm real deal out here. Like so he like so we used to have those battles of like he's still kind of not holding on to playing, but he's still in that kind of mindset as
That's
opposed
how he
to
want
coming
to
to a
teach you.
coach.
That's how he want to teach you. I'll take you out here and bust your ass real quick.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Talk to us about Mark Cuban in the locker room that you walked into. There was a quote from you in Sports Illustrated back then that you said the locker room was nicer than your house. Remember, this is around the time that Mark Cuban put the 11-inch TVs in the walls and had the PlayStation 2s and the stereos. We hear so many stories about Mark Cuban, from Muggsy Bogues saying that he paid him, paid his salary as he had to leave while his mother was sick. He's fighting Big Pharma right now. Like, what do you have a Mark Cuban memory, and what was it like walking into that locker room that at the time felt like it was state of the art, blowing away every other locker room?
Coming out of college, coming into an NBA locker room, already excited.
Wisconsin didn't have the fly shit.
We didn't.
The football team didn't play for the fly shit.
The football team. Yeah, okay. We kind of transformed as
Okay.
On the way out, we started getting fly stuff, but but coming into it, I mean, like you said, PlayStations, TVs, robes, like shower robes, dope, like just anything you could possibly want at your fingertips. We had access. I mean, we had our own plane, right? Maverick sign on the tail. Each recliner chair had its own private TV that you could pull out. I mean, and looking at other teams and obviously other rookies that I was friends with, I mean, nothing compared to what I had access to. Food, everything was just laid out first class. But also, what I said, coming into a situation as the fifth pick at the time with a team that wins 55 games every year, they go deep into the playoffs, and we're in this championship window at this point. So to walk into that situation, Mark Cuban really knew how to get guys to buy in and have guys want to be able to come to his team. And I thought he did a phenomenal job of that. And I'll just tell a little bit of story. And this was much later in our relationship. I did lose my brother about 9 years ago to a tragic car accident. It happened the night of a game, situation where it kind of lingered over 2 or 3 days. And I want to say that man sat in the waiting room with me the entire time, with my family, where we had to make very tough decisions at that point in time. And he was there with me that entire time. And I don't know what owner would really be able to relate to a player like that, where, it's one of the worst nights possible you have to deal with. And he just sat there with us and just, walked everything with us. And, I'm sort of the leader of my family. I had to take charge in a lot of decisions that we had to make. And I'm only, 31, I think, at the time. Mm-hmm. And be able to talk, things with him and kind of figure things out. That was huge for me at that point in our family. So I always have a special connection to him just in that way. And on top of that, he brought me back 3 different times. I mean, I don't know what other owner has. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you did have that relationship where you just kept managing and getting back to Dallas, Dev. You know what I mean? Yeah. But shout out Cube. The Cube reeks of human being, of great human being. And stories like this, even when if you have an opportunity to come across them, even if you're a player, I've been a starter, I've been a 10th guy on the bench a lot, journeyman, whatever shit you want to say. But every time I saw Cube, hey, Jelani, you know what I mean? He was present. He talked to me about what was presently going on. It wasn't like I was trying to get to his team or like, hey, man, sign me. When he sees you as you presently are. It's not really, don't have to be a basketball conversation. You can geek out about business, life, the day. He's just a good human being. And the more and more stories that you have from owners and guys that he didn't have to be nice to, the stories will just keep adding up about behind closed doors. This dude is like one of the greatest. He's up there with like Keanu Reeves for human beings.
I got another one for you guys. So this has happened recently. You realize that he just sold the team recently. I don't know if it was out there. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell it, but he did this when he sold broadcast.com. I'm not sure how many employees he had at the time, but everybody who was on his staff, he sets aside a portion of the sale, and they all get money. So recently with the Mavericks, I want to say it was a pool of about 200 to 300, maybe even more employees, and they created a formula. How what your salary was, how many years you've been with the team, and broken down, and everybody got a little piece of that sale on his way out.
Yeah,
and that's probably everybody from the head of everything to the popcorn
marketing.
Dude.
The street team, the dudes who put the brochures in the seats before the games and the T-shirts. Yeah.
Going to the 2006 finals, this is obviously a big discussion and topic. What I want to know first, who was your roommate when Avery Johnson made you guys switch hotels?
DDA Mbenga. Normally,
big Banga, big DJ, big DJ. Oh snap! Okay.
It worked out for me because DJ didn't speak English that well, so I got to watch whatever I wanted to watch on TV.
That's a big fight in the room with roommates as well.
100%. What we watching?
Yep.
He didn't care, and it was at the point where like we were shut off from the world. So we went over to Fort. I think it was Fort Lauderdale at the time. I mean, we're completely away from all we just lived, ate, and breathed basketball for I think like a 3-day period, and it was just ball and being stuck in that room with DJ. That was it. So by the time I got back on that court for I think it was game 4 or game 5, I was ready to fight somebody. I'm like, I'm ready to roll. Like
cage lion,
right.
I read that. So for everybody that doesn't know, I guess this was after you got blown out in game 4, and the series was tied at 2-2, and there were everybody's family was staying at the same hotel in Miami, and Avery kind of freaked out and said we're going to Fort Lauderdale. I read that like Daryl Armstrong was rooming with Dirk, and like Dirk's a bit, big fellas need their sleep, and Daryl Armstrong like doesn't sleep.
He wired.
He kept Dirk. Do you think that was the right choice? Like, obviously, hindsight is 20/20, and you could say it was or was not. But in that time, like, do you think you needed to be shut off, or was it an exaggeration that like everybody was distracted?
There was some distractions.
South Beach.
Yeah, I mean, there were some distractions, but that's a part of it. I'm not. If I remind me, and you may know this, which game did Stackhouse get suspended for? Was that 4 or 5? Do we know?
I'll check that real quick.
Okay, check on that. So we were dealing with some adversity on top of that. We had some distractions. We were a young team. I don't know. I felt it a little extreme to spend 2 to 3 days out there. Mm-hmm. And I think we put a better effort up in Game 5. Obviously, we still lost at that point in time.
That was the Stackhouse. That was the Stackhouse suspension game, by the way. 5.
Okay, 5. But it's. I mean, I can see it both ways. I would have liked to think that maybe having families there to sort of have you distract from the noise would have been a good distraction, as opposed to just sitting in a room having to listen to all of it with nothing to sort of take you away from it, in a sense. But obviously we didn't win the series, so we can knock it like all we want. But I think we weren't prepared enough, and mentally we weren't strong enough to handle being there and being in the moment.
Something that I came across in the research and didn't even really realize is obviously people today know that kind of as the Dwyane Wade series, he breaks out. You're probably the one or maybe two primary defender on him. But then I kind of started to connect the dots, and we got Wisconsin, we got Marquette. When did you first come across Dwyane Wade, and then how big of a nightmare was it guarding him, especially when he gets a whistle for a lot?
That relationship started in college. Obviously, being from Milwaukee, him going to Marquette. We didn't see him right away. He was a partial qualifier. So he sat out a year. And I think that might have worked out really well in his favor, because when he got to, sophomore year, he was a problem, and nobody really knew about him because it wasn't like he coming in as a highly recruited player. And when he came up on the scene, you could tell he was being from Chicago, athletic, smooth type of player. I will say, sophomore year, they did come up to Wisconsin. We did beat the hell out of them on our home floor. But you knew he was going to be a special player. And we had some similar guys that we knew. I played pickup in the summer, so it started to build in some of these camps over the summer. And then I see him again junior year. Obviously, his stratosphere is just extremely higher at that point. As an All-American, I became a fan just watching him. Just not when he played against us. I ended up signing with his agent, Henry Thomas, as I came through the draft. So. Working out in Chicago pre-draft, we became friends, started hanging out. He kind of took me underneath his wing in that aspect. But when we got on the court, obviously, as competitive as can be. And to say, like, playing him as much as I did, I felt like I had a good understanding of what to take away. But when he gets the whistle like he's getting, I put it in the same category as when James Harden had that run of like, you can't touch him. You can't touch him. And if you can't,
the whistle was a mofo, man. If you got that whistle, once keep it a buck. Once you became an all-star, you got some semblance of what that whistle can do.
But not to this level,
Facts.
and not on the biggest stage.
Facts.
And I'm not gonna say like he didn't deserve it or he want like there's some of them fouls. Absolutely, we try to be physical with him. We try to knock him down, try to knock him on his ass. But when there's games when he's shooting more free throws than our entire team, you know what I mean. That's hard to come back from.
Facts.
And when especially he's a smart player. He's like, and he recognizes when he gets his whistle. And he starts to incorporate that, and it became impossible to keep him out of the paint, and he just took full advantage.
Is he, to both of you, is he the third best shooting guard of all time after Kobe and Mike? You got AI.
How you like your shooting guard? Like, when people come up with this, how you like your shooting guard? Do you like the shooter? You want like a Reggie Miller? Like, how you like your shooting guard?
It's how your impact on the game and how. So just because like could he shoot? Like he wasn't a shooter. He could make shots and he made shots in the clutch. But your style of the game, how did it impact? And it impacted at an extremely high level. We talking about a guy before guys start teaming up. Back when it was like, okay, you're gonna give us one superstar, maybe two. Shaq was teetering at that point, but. Safe to say, how many guys led their teams to NBA championships on their rookie contracts?
Not a lot. That's a good question,
right? You know what I mean? And you can talk about AI. You can talk about how many guys have done that.
You would have to go back. You would have to go back into the 80s, and they don't like to do that, D-Harris. That's too far back. They go in late 90s, early 2000s back as far as history. To come up with that person, I think you would have to go like Magic Johnson. Tim Duncan.
Yeah. Tim Duncan.
Yeah. But not very few.
But Tim Duncan also had David Robinson. And I think at that point in time, David was still up. Yeah, up here.
And Sean Elliott wasn't no punk either.
Right.
Yeah.
And Shaq was, he wasn't the Shaq of LA. He was dominant-esque, but not that Kobe and Shaq type, where it was no question it was D-Wade's team. Right.
That whole team, too, I mean, I would imagine it's somewhat of like, obviously not all those guys are in that prime, but I mean, you say Shaq, you got, and for the guard, too, like, you got Gary Payton and White Chocolate too.
White Chocolate, Antoine Walker, James Posey.
That's all type of different styles for you to have to guard. Like when he go out the game and you think you got to chill, then he come in with a different flow and style. It's like, dude, I thought I got to chill because GP and White Chocolate, like they got two different vibrations. D-Wade, you knew what the assignment was. Stop him from getting 40, whoop-de-whoop. They come in and it's like, yo, what are we on? We got to figure out what are they on before I can figure out how to stop him. I can't imagine, and you playing a lot of minutes, so I can't imagine, you think you getting the rest when D-Wade come out of the game and you got to deal with a savvy GP and Jason Williams. So that's a lot of work, man.
But that was kind of like, that's how when we talked earlier about how do you get on the court, how do you make it, for me, it started on the defensive end of the floor. I had to kind of set my offense aside and say, okay, what does this team need that they don't have out there? And I was like, I used to have to take on the Kobe's of the world. So when you watch that game of he's got 62 and 3/4, I caught a lot of that at the time, and I enjoyed the challenge. But that's how I kind of got on the floor, and that's how I kind of kicked the door in. He was frying, and he when he started hitting threes from the timeline, it was like at that point in time, and you just knew he was locked in, and he started talking to you. It ain't shit you could do there. It ain't shit you could do. It literally, it was. I mean, at that point, we just started fouling the shit out of him. There was nothing left to do. I think Josh Howard got kicked out with a flagrant 2 that game. I think Avery got kicked out with 2 techs that game, and to the point it was like you just got to throw your hands up.
Yeah, we hoopers, ain't that the move? After he gets 60 or when he start getting past 40, ain't that the move? Right. Hey, we got to foul. I ain't gonna stick around. I'm gonna foul out. I'm gonna use my sex and be back in the room. I'll get with y'all after the game. But I thought as hoopers, once they start reaching that lovey level where you can't do nothing with, they got the Scion boost. It's like, man, I'm gonna see y'all in the locker room. I'm gonna use mine. We're gonna have to beat them up, and I'll meet y'all in the locker room. But I ain't standing out here for this. You see that, man? Yeah.
Couple more topics. So losing in 6 in the finals, which is devastating. The next year, the We Believe series, and I think the underrated wrinkle of this, which has been talked about, but the animosity that existed at that point between Nelly and the Mavericks organization. We work with dudes that were on that We Believe team. They said after Nelly and the Warriors won that series and beat his old team, he was cool. He was cool. Did you realize the animosity that existed at that point? I think there was a lawsuit that might have been active at that point, but that Nelly versus the Mavericks was an underratedly massive storyline of that upset.
Yeah, after losing that series, everybody came back that year extremely focused. Now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we lost the first 5 games of that next year. We started the season 0-5. And then from that point on, we went on a tear. And when I say we ran through the regular season, I think we had 3 or 4 crazy winning streaks that year. We were totally locked in. Just one team that we did not match up well against, and that was that Golden State Warrior team. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you when the series shifted, it was before the series even started. So we obviously have home court advantage. At that point in time, our practice facility was in the basement of the AAC. So the team is coming into the Warriors are coming into practice, and this is where everything changed. Nelly walks in. He's walking through the weight room like he owns that shit. He's walking in chest out like I built this shit.
He kind of did.
Fact. Right.
A little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
But he came in with a confidence, and I think that kind of put everybody on tilt a little bit. He knew our team inside and out. He knew Dirk inside and out. And they had a team where it was it was the start of positionless basketball. And they put a team out there that was athletic and shot the shit out of the 3 and was physical. And and I felt like going through that series, it felt like they never missed a shot. It was like they'd swing, they put, kind of put guys in isolation, and then they were just knocking down shots, and they were talking shit, and we just didn't have an answer to their, you know what I'm saying, their positionless basketball, the way they spaced the floor. and they just called us at the right time.
Let's keep it honest, Devin. They had the right bunch of people in that position. Like they had a little attitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nelly was fostering that shit and letting
Yeah.
them. They had that Oakland. Nelly was out there in Oakland after being around in Dallas. You know, living well. He went out there to the town, put some town into it, let the town get in them, and unleash them boys. You know what I mean? They had it was positionless basketball, and there was some new shit, but they was doing it with an attitude and a bop that I can only imagine as a player. It's like, man, they getting that shit off too. Not only are they doing the new position, y'all gonna let them act out like this? They can act like this. And once that that's confidence, that Dev, you know that. And if the coach is with it, that shit starts snowballing. You get a couple whistles, and you know what I mean. A couple of games don't go your way, and I mean, history is kind of made. But it was an interesting series, and I do believe what you said. Like every time when I was watching that series, like every big shot that they had to make to stop a run before it even started, you know what I mean, to keep the crowd at a frenzy, it seemed like either Jack, Matt, BD, whoever it was somebody random, and it was like Jay Rich, you know what I mean? They just had somebody random that just had the energy of the town in them for real.
Yeah, and it was just like that pretty much, I think, kind of broke us in a sense. Like, because we had just went through this heartbreak in Miami. We had fought so hard to get into a great mental place. And if we win one more game in the regular season, we don't even match up with them.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And that was the thing. Like we at that point in time, we were so far ahead in the standings. We started picking games or we're sitting guys out. We just win one more game, we don't even see them, and we run through the West that year. And
you
we
lost. You lost. Looking at the schedule, you lost from November 9th to March 11th. So that's what, 4 months? You lost 5 games.
Come on, that was frying. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's like when you see like the last, what are they doing? The standings like last 10. Every time there says like 9-1, 8-2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 7-3 at the worst. That's the worst.
Oh, that's how we broke.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how we broke down the season in increments of 10, right? And it's like, okay, we start a new 10, like what, new season, like let's go. Who we got and we just kept it going. And I mean, we had some amazing winning streaks, and that year was so much fun up until that first round. Yeah.
We talked to we talked to Dirk, and he said that MVP ceremony that he had was the lowest moment of his career.
It felt so bad for him. I mean,
he said, honestly, I felt so bad for him.
It's because like if you look at like that moment of like them MVP, and when they call it out and he could hold that trophy up in the crowd and they going crazy like that's what you want for him, right? He did it in some hotel room
with the suit broken. He was
straight on. You felt it was crazy. It just felt terrible.
Know what he said? You know what he said on All the Smoke when the guys finally had the gumption to ask him about the series and the MVP trophy. Your boy Dirty said that every time he looks at the MVP trophy, he thinks of, and then he stops. He goes like, I think of All the Smoke.
All the Smoke.
Because of their podcast, he was like, I don't even think. Every time I see that trophy, I think of y'all, man. It's annoying. He skated past the pain real quick. After that, he was like, I don't want to, you know what I mean. But to him and Mark's credit, like they talked a lot candidly opening about that series, you know what I mean, and just, you know what I mean, how much mentally that series took a toll on him. And I appreciated his transparency when he was like, I did that conference, I was broken. I had the stupid ass suit in the hotel room. I didn't want to be there, and that's funny that you said I felt bad for him.
I felt terrible. It was like, I mean, we felt he should have won it the year before. Obviously, they gave it to Steve. And a funny story about that, when we were playing in 2006, we were playing Phoenix in the playoffs. Part of Avery's to try to hype Dirk up. I think this was right before he had the 50-point game. I want to say in Game 5. He referenced, I want to say, was it Olajuwon who stole a trophy from David Robinson? Or David Robinson stole it from Olajuwon?
He did. He referenced that. He embarrassed him in the playoffs. David won it, and then Dream cooked him.
And we were, at this point in time, obviously Dirk and Steve are best friends. And it was a point in time where I think there was like a tussle for the ball. And Steve kind of threw Dirk to the floor a little bit. And he showed it on the film. And he shut the film off. He was like, now I need to know. If this team needs you to go out there and throw Steve on the floor, are you going to do that?
Fact.
Dirk was like, no. Oh shit! Dirk. This is what this team needs. What I need you to do, go get back. Go. You should have been the MVP last year. That was your trophy. This team needs you to take that trophy back. We need you to go get that trophy. Dirk's was like, he kind of embarrassed and kind of sitting there. Man, that man came out the next game and dropped 50, giving Tim Thomas all the, you know what I mean? Like, that's
his version of what needed to get done.
Exactly. Yeah.
So before we get to your last season, which I want to talk about, did you have a favorite non-Dallas stop in your career?
Or
the Mavs were just
stop. No, I enjoyed my season in Atlanta. My season in Atlanta, playing with Al Horford, Josh Smith, Lou Williams, Jeff Teague. It was a fun year. We made the playoffs. It's fun guys. Experience in Atlanta, just living there for a season. It was. I enjoyed it.
Woody?
No, Drew.
LD.
Drew, LD.
LD cool,
laid back,
cool than a fan. Yeah.
It was. If it were up to me, I would have re-signed there after that season, but they end up drafting Dennis Schroeder that summer.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Was it? Were you happy seeing the Mavs win at 11, or was there a part of you that was like
story about that?
He got a ring.
I did not get a ring.
Okay.
I did not. So that year, I changed agents. I went to Jeff Schwartz that year. My sole focus, and because I knew he could manipulate, he's the reason why I was in New Jersey to begin with, because he represented J Kidd. J Kidd wanted to go to Dallas. And that's what happened. I'm like, oh, so he's the agent that can finagle trades, right? So I leave CAA, I go to Excel, and my whole focus was to get back to Dallas. I wanted to get back to Dallas. Whole focus, it was all set up. Night before the trade deadline, I'm going back to Dallas for Caron Butler and a first-round pick.
In 11?
In 11. I go to sleep. Jeff was like, talk to Mark. Looks like it's all good. Go to bed. You wake up. You're going home. I'm on vacation at the time. Coming back into it. I'm like, telling my family, I'll see you in Dallas in a couple of days. Like, all big. Fly back to New Jersey at night. Go to practice. It's like, all right. I wake up. Jeff calls me with a defeated. I'm like, what's going on, Jeff? Like, something happened in the middle of the night. Nothing I could foresee that's coming.
Agent talk.
You're not going to Dallas.
I've been.
Where am I going?
Dallas. Yeah.
You're going to Utah.
Hey.
They had discussions in the middle of the night to trade Darren Williams, made him available, and they bring him to Jersey. And when I tell you, I hung up on Jeff so quick.
Ooh, I would have. Good for you.
I was so angry. At that point in time.
Was this in between the Jerry Sloan it's either me or him time?
It was. It was that Jerry had already left the team at that point in time.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So you didn't even get Jerry. You didn't even get the OG.
You didn't even get Jerry to cook with.
Yeah. No.
Who you get? Tyrone Corbin.
Tyrone Corbin.
No disrespect to Ty. But that's not why you come to Utah. You at least want to play for Jerry.
Right. But then to watch them win a championship that year, knowing that I could have been on that team that was hard. That was hard. Yeah.
Well, you got to send your career off in Dallas, and you sat at the the fact that Luka played with Dirk is crazy, and you're on that team, and then they have Brunson coming in. You were on record saying right out of the gate, even at training camp, that Luka was different, that you knew when he first came to practice. There were a lot of questions asked about him. Obviously, he's slow, he's European. There really wasn't a huge track record, and I'll ask both of you, of like a Euro coming in and like killing right out the gate. Like, right, even Dirk had his trials and tribulations. What do you remember from those training camp days of Luka? And then I want to talk about Brunson.
Yeah, they lied to us. The comp was Steve Nash, right, coming in, right? Like pass first guy, right? Like, so we get there, it's like, oh, he's kind of like Steve Nash. So he's coming, he's playing pickup. And it's like, I don't see Steve Nash out here.
Say no Steve Nash.
I don't see Nash out here. It's like, and we could see it like in bits and pieces of it. He had the footwork, he could shoot, but the confidence wasn't there. He's still trying to figure out like how, the ball wasn't going to be in his hands all the time. There was this discrepancy between how him and Dennis Smith Jr. were going to work. Because at that point, Dennis had the keys. So it was like, and fighting for jockey in position. But once they decided to put the ball in his hands and let him run with it, you saw a different monster and what he potentially could be. And at that point in time, like, veterans never want to see this, right? It's like it outdates you. And when they say, you know what, we don't care what y'all doing, give him the ball. It didn't sit well with a lot of vets, but it was the best thing that Dallas could have ever done. And a lot, like I said, a lot of guys at that point in time, Harrison, Wesley Matthews were our kind of go-to guys. But once they got to a point where, like, we see the future, and the future is now, and kind of just let him start to cook, that's when Luka Magic really started to come to fruition. And it was a great decision, I got to say, from the coaching staff, going that route.
Nah, man. Shout out y'all too as veterans. I know the coaching staff makes a decision, but it takes y'all as veterans and the practices when you start seeing that, they're about to start giving them the ball, y'all. You know what I mean? Wooty, wooty, woo. There's a lot of games within the games that veterans could play to ensure that shit doesn't go exactly how they want it to go. If you know, you know. Right. If you played in the association, you know. You know what I mean? These are people's jobs. But shout out to y'all as veterans and maybe the class act of an organization that's like, nah, we checked in on them. He seems like he ready to go. Y'all go ahead and go with the plan. So I think it's the front office, but in talking to you and other people that play for the Mavs, I think it's y'all too. Y'all got a unique locker room. People that play for the Mavs, they're coaches, they're front office people. They're usually very professional. They're happily with the Mavs. They don't leave. There's very few people I can think of that left disgruntled from the Mavs organization. And I'm not a Mavs guy. Just from as being playing and looking on the outside, I think, and I play for them in the summer league. When I've been around the locker room, when I've been around the coaches, there's a professionalism. There's a culture. I hate using that word, but there's a culture there. You know what I mean? To where, like, they listen to at the end of the day, they listen to the players. The players' opinions and what they're seeing on the court are taken into account. It's not necessarily the nerds in the front office. It seems like it's a good hybrid situation going on for the Dallas Mavericks organization. That's what I see it from the outside looking in.
And for sure, but you could, he started showing signs early on.
Luke is not Luka's not your typical project.
So it's like the big shot he hit in Portland, to tie the game. You start to see, it's like, okay, like this needs to happen sooner than later.
Yeah.
Right. And I got to the point where we weren't going to make the playoffs. They were like, it's your time, bro. And obviously from that point on, he just kind of ran with it. And once he got that confidence, I mean, he just started to become like a monster.
You probably have played with the three best European players ever. If you're going to say, I think Giannis could be in that conversation, but you play with Jokic, you play with Dirk, and you play with Luka.
Yeah, and all of them attack it very differently. Dirk's work ethic was second to none. Wasn't the most athletic guy, but his mid-range jump shot was like most people's layups.
Layup.
Right?
I was just about to say that was a layup.
Automatic, and obviously added the three, but was kind of the first of his kind, setting the table for big shooting threes and kind of spacing the floor. Nobody really seen a guy kind of like Dirk. Jokic, same kind of way. Now I only spent a half a season there, and this was like right before he took he was good, but it was like right before he took that leap to like great. But you could just see, I mean, the man jumped this high on the ground. But the way he controlled the game, the way he saw the game, and instructing the offense as a 7-foot center, and his touch, and his ability to hit threes, and even playing with Jamal. Jamal was younger then and still kind of immature, but you saw the talent that he had, and you knew that this two dynamic team was going to do great things. They just needed a few more seasons to mature. And to watch that and just those 25 games that I spent just barely missing the playoffs. I mean, it was fun to watch. And coming into watching Luka as a young player, they call him a prodigy. I mean, this kid's been a professional since like 13. He's won all the European awards you can possibly think of. And coming into the first European, in my opinion, coming into it and dominating from a level from not day one, but pretty early on. And we're talking about, all NBA first team, is it 6 seasons in a row?
Yeah. His second year.
Yeah. I mean, that as a European player, that's unheard of. And you look at like all the teams that passed on him because of he was European and like, well, we don't know. Like, you think they're not kicking themselves right now? Like,
they said Vlade Divac did it because he didn't like his dad.
Come on, Vlade.
Yeah. And that's why Vlade is no longer there.
Yeah, you feel me? That's why Vlade. Yeah, come on, Vlade.
You think Luka's ever going to stop talking to the refs? I feel like Jokic kind of had that. Probably when you were there, he was still barking at the refs at every play.
He was. Yeah, it's a maturity thing, and I feel like in talking to everybody, like I think it's on full display right now.
Yeah.
I thought. Coming into this season, he was a lot better. Now he reverted a little bit. You can't expect him to be perfect. But I think looking back, whenever this series is over, what can he learn from this? And what I think that's going to be one of those things that he'll look back to and say, okay, I need to change this. They're talking about his defense.
Yeah.
I think that's something that he'll look back and say, okay, I need to do this a little bit differently. But sometimes it takes going through those failures to recognize that, and rewind a couple years ago with the Celtics, and when they lost to Golden State, we weren't high on the Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown duo. We had a lot to say about it.
Every time you put it in his left hand, it's a turnover. We was critiquing it. Dev, to your point, I always say this. I mean, video and all that is cool, but like your cellular structure needs to go through that. Like, there's only certain many times they can break out the iPad or show you like you have to go through it. You have to feel that person breathing against you. You have to realize like there's the video and then there's realizing like this dude ain't tired.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's something else that happened. He came out of that timeout. They looked dead going into that timeout, but whatever happened in that huddle, they back alive, and you can't get that from the iPad or from the coach telling you this gonna happen on the weak side. Nah, bro. You know what I mean? I'm looking at this man. Something happened in that huddle, and he different. Right. So I always say sometimes it got to get worse. It got to get real bad before it gets better, and you physically and mentally have to go through it.
Yeah, and same thing with Dirk in 2006.
Facts.
The three games in Miami, he didn't play well. I think he will own that. And, part of it, like, we needed him to. We didn't win the series. But you can't tell me when he didn't come back a different man in 2011.
Whole different.
Right?
Yeah.
He was ready for the moment. And I think you don't get that in 2011 without going through 2006.
He said that. Yeah.
He
said that on record that 2011 doesn't happen. Last thing for me, any Brunson? Did you know that Brunson was going to be this good?
So, you can speak facts to this. You can tell somebody's going to be good with how they approach the game coming in as a rookie. Rookies that listen and take in information and want to be better, you can tell that they're going. And he comes from an NBA family. He's a winner. But like when he came in, myself and JJ took him under our wing, and he every day asking us questions, every day wanting information, every day we're working out. And I think I came to he played early on because I was hurt. When I got back, he sort of took a back seat to me and watched for a while. And I think as the season went on, they played me less and played him more. But you could just tell like he had a knowledge for the game and wanted to be better. We had other rookies that came in, thought they knew everything, thought they figured it out already. When you got a guy that wants to get better and would use the tools around him to do so, that's when guys are going to figure it out. So am I surprised that he's in this position? Absolutely not. Like, he's got, one, knows the NBA, been around it all his life, has a dad that played in the NBA, had a great college experience, winning 2 national championships, and now he's dominating on the level in New York. I wish he was still here. I can only imagine what that team would look like, but obviously no Kyrie if he is still here. But, but for him, dominating the way and playing how he is in New York, I'm not surprised at all.
Facts.
He's cold.
Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much. This was amazing. Whenever we get a 15-year pro that played damn near 1,000 games, I know sometimes you guys are, you're in the rat race for so long that you can't even really like reflect on it. But it's a lot of basketball, and
that is.
I mean, you were in the NBA for like a fifth of its existence.
Yeah. Wow. When you put it in perspective.
Yeah. That's a bar. Yeah,
for sure.
Appreciate you, Devin, man. I've always been a fan of yours because you had your own individual style of play. You always seem to be a professional from the outside looking in. You weren't the problem. Like, it's easy to hate on guys in this league. You played in this league. It's easy to hate on guys and be like, he this, he that. But I've never known anybody to hate on your game. Like, every time you hear it, I was like, nah, he cold. You know what I mean? So I'm not a hater in the league. I was playing along guys that I was fans of, or I'd be like, yo, he gonna be nice, or woo 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 woo. So it's a good opportunity to catch up with you. Congratulations on your career, and I hope you live with a couple of those numbers and stats that Dylan gave you.
Oh, that was like
wanted to pull. I'm
gonna use that. I had no idea.
Yeah, I know we like to be humble.
Devin Harris, 875 games.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man.
All right, man. Thank you. This was Forgotten Seasons with Devin Harris.
Sir.
Appreciate your time, man. We'll catch you guys next week.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.